It's not your plugins and it's not your mix, it's your arrangements. And that could be why your track still doesn't feel finished. For many years, I looked at it the wrong way, but after producing for multiple artists and labels, I eventually realized arrangement isn't just about one thing. It's actually a part of a 3-part framework I call the arrangement axes. And once you see it, you'll know exactly what your track is missing and how to fix it so you can start releasing music you're proud of. Let's dive in. Axis 1, the vertical axis. This is everything the listener hears in a single moment. Think layers, sound selection, all of that. Anything you place vertically in your DAW. But here's where most producers get stuck. When a section's weak, they just add more. More leads, more textures, and just more clutter. And when those roles aren't clearly defined, everything blurs and just becomes muddy. When I'm working on the vertical axis, I'm really checking for 3 main things. Number 1 is contrast. Check out this example. Notice how although we have 4 pads playing a similar part, we're using contrasting colors to ensure they work together. For example, we've got the high mids as a choir pad, then a bright shimmery pad an octave above that, a basic Juno sounding pad to cover the mids, and then something a little more soft and transparent. And then of course the low end is covered with the basses. And if the idea of contrasting colors feels just a little bit abstract, think of it like texture and octaves. Higher or brighter sounds will give you more separation, and low to mid-range sounds will give you that body, glue, and weight. But then you might be asking, how do you know which sounds to actually choose? So the second thing that I'm looking at is sound selection. And by role and utility, not just taste. For my tracks overall, I always want at least something in the low end. This could be a sub 808 or respace, which might sound something like this. Something in the mid-range, like a Juno pad, choir, or strings maybe spread further out. And then something high, like bells, shimmer pads, light plucks, and spreading them even further out depending on balance. And selecting sounds with that criteria can get you something like this. The third thing I'm looking for in the vertical axis is rhythmic movement. Are all parts really grooving together or kind of stepping on each other? When you stack too many things at once, they fight for space and blur the rhythm. And if I've got a rhythmically active vocal, I'll usually only let one other part move along with it, like an ARP or percussion layer. You want everything else to hold steady, add contrast, or build tension in the background. You can hear this clearly in Zayn and Jisoo's Eyes Closed. So while we've got those very basic pads on beats 1 and 3, there are some very subtle plucks layered in that they hit right on the beat so they lock into the groove. And this is what they sound like. And then every bar or two, you get a brief arpeggio burst. And it's the only element doing anything complex, but it's used just enough to keep things moving. And that's the key. There's rhythmic movement, but never chaos. Everything has space and the vocal has room to breathe. So let's say your vertical's working. You've got contrast, selected sounds that play a clear role, and controlled rhythmic movement. But the track still feels stuck, like it's not going anywhere. Why? Because the vertical is just one axis. Now we need to talk about the movement, energy, and momentum of the track, the horizontal axis. This is arrangement over time, essentially how your track evolves from left to right in the DAW. And there are 3 core things that you need to look out for in your horizontal axis. Firstly, the bird's eye structure. Structure exists for a reason. Intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse 2, chorus, bridge, double chorus. But it's not a rule book. It's a blueprint that you can break. Sometimes I'll lose the bridge, sometimes I'll skip the pre, but the real question is, does the song build intentionally? So the bird's eye structure helps us establish an overview for the entire song. But arrangement isn't just about verses and choruses. It's about what happens inside them, especially with chords and melodies. Phrase patterns like ABAC, triple AB, or A prime, A prime make an idea feel complete and not random. A A is your main idea, B introduces the contrast, and A prime is a mirror of A but with a twist, and it's the same with chords. If your chord progression doesn't really loop cleanly, your section starts to feel stuck. Here's an example of something that really lacks that cyclical nature. It moves around, but it just doesn't feel quite right. Now compare that to something like this. It lands, feels complete, and just invites another round naturally. And it doesn't have to properly resolve on the tonic to really achieve this. When it comes to pop music in particular, if your chords and melodies don't feel as if they can loop on repeat, where it feels really natural for that last chord to get back to that first chord, if that's not done correctly, the energy can die really quickly. And that's structure, even in 2 bars. And honestly, just analyzing the chord progressions of your favorite tracks will teach you more than any theory book will. Number 3, energy and impact. Even inside a section, there should be movement and energy. Automations, ear candy, a well-placed silence, even a quick riser, or a tiny delay that pulls you forward. A few years back, I heard producer Decap describe this as tension and release. With all of your transitions, build pressure and then release it, however you do it. Give the listener something to lean into and pull them forward, and then pay it off with impact. As an example, check out this verse into the chorus. We're using a combination of silence and percussive ear candy to drive it into the next section. And we've got a small and subtle riser to pull it towards that downbeat, and some white noise on the downlift. These simple things alone can help you differentiate each section. And if we have a look at this example, a pre-chorus entering a chorus, there are 2 things in particular that really drive it into that chorus. Firstly is the filter automation on the synth. And then of course the silence before the chorus hits. And even smaller reverses like this that don't have to last a whole bar make a massive difference. Simple but super effective. That's what drives listener attention, keeping the listener engaged. You can use all the tricks in the book, but if you don't hold their attention, they're gone. Every fill, every silence, every riser, they all ask the same question: will I keep listening? So now your vertical's clean, your structure's built, you've got movement and impact, so why is the track still not working? Axis 3, the intersection. The third axis, the intersection, is where your vertical choices support your horizontal goals. Your structure only works if each moment is built to push your song forward. This is why a stacked chorus can still feel weaker than a minimal verse. At this point, you're not asking what should I add, you're asking what does this moment need for where the song's going. And anytime I'm stuck, I ask a question. Is it a vertical problem, a horizontal one, or a mismatch between the two? And that one question saves me hours of trial and error. And once you start thinking in terms of vertical, horizontal, and the intersection, arrangement stops being random, because the trick isn't knowing more techniques, it's knowing when to use them. And if you found this video valuable, check out this one over here. I think you'll find it really useful.